Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Oh.
It's the Randy Karraker Show. What do you think? How about that? Was that aggressive?
You didn't ease into it. Right before we went on, he said, I'm going to start off with DraftKings, which we usually do, but I didn't think that you would just come out firing like that.
I did, yeah.
It was aggressive. It was slightly angry. There was some slight anger there.
So here's the thing, Brooke. This morning, I went to DraftKings.
Okay.
And Brooks Koepka was plus 4,500 to be the first round leader. And then he went up to like plus 35,000. What the heck? And now he's like 6 shots off the lead, so he's not going to be the first round leader. So
that's where the frustration is coming from.
It's
that
all
was
good.
Coming through.
It's all good.
You win some and you lose some. Isn't that just that's the gamble of life, Randy?
Right. And when you're betting plus 35,000, what are you really expecting?
Yeah. Right? Eli says, "Are you okay, Randy?" No. As you can tell, no.
Aggressive. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Matthew is here. It's the Randy Karraker Show on Sports Hub STL. It's great to have you with us. The Cardinals with a well-deserved day off after playing 2 tilts yesterday and losing to the Philadelphia Phillies 2-1 and then beating the Philadelphia Phillies by a touchdown. I mean, it was higher scoring than any Rams-Eagles game when the Rams were here. 14-7 was the final.
Oh,
okay.
Sad memory.
Not all of them. At post 2001 NFC Championship game. How's that? Is that better? Okay, good.
A little bit better.
See,
look, Randy's mad this morning. Now he has to bring other people down with him. That's what you're doing.
What about that game where Steven Jackson was playing really great, and then he pulled his hamstring, and then the season was never mind.
That was the Cowboys game. And then the next week they went to New England, and they were way ahead of the Cowboys. And was it Linehan? Left, it was 2008. Linehan leaves Steven Jackson in. He's late in the fourth quarter. They're way ahead of the Cowboys. And I think he pulled a quad, actually, Matthew. And then they go to New England the next week, play the Patriots close because Brady was hurt, which was really cool. And the Rams wound up losing the game. But we all thought, even like the coaches, who I guess they would have thought this too. But if Steven Jackson would have been there, the Rams would have beaten New England, and it would have changed the entire trajectory of the Scott Linehan. How did we get here? How did we get to Steven Jackson?
I don't know. Is that another staple of this show? Is that it's food, death, and then somehow
some horrible Rams
Rams story.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like a slight staple of the story.
14-7 Rams Eagles. That's how we got there. Okay.
Yes. So
anyway, last night, everybody in the game last night had a hit. Everybody that started the game had a hit.
That was nice to see.
You had Mason Wynn with a career-high 4-hit game. You had Burleson with a 3-hit game. You had Herrera with a 3-hit game. It was crazy, the offense that the St. Louis Cardinals were able to bring to the table last night.
Game 1, the streak was snapped. And
who had the RBI, though?
Well, it was Walker.
Jordan
Walker, which it was really nice to see. Now, Jordan Walker's numbers. Now you have me like being drawn into the Debbie Downer just to start the show because we should be really excited about the 14-7 win. But when you're talking about Jordan Walker, he really needed that. And so I was happy that he was able to get that done in game 1, but he is still really struggling at the plate. 184 average right now, sub 500 OPS. Ugh.
I think, though, the average is it was 180, so 184.
That's a positive. We're trying to be positive, sunshine and lollipops. But the streak was snapped. But it felt like after that in game 2, that was a statement win by the Cardinals. Is it too early to say that was the best win of the season so far for the Cardinals?
Being down 5-1 there with the fans.
And Sonny Gray didn't do them any favors there.
No, he didn't get a quality start quite.
You texted that to the group last night. Said,
After the first inning, I'm feeling bad about a quality start.
I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
So, but yeah, the comeback was tremendous, and it was quick, and it was decisive. It was kind of a little shock and awe for the Cardinals in the third inning. Newt with the home run, Donovan with an RBI double, Contreras with an RBI ground out to score Donovan, and then Burley with the 2-run homer, and all of a sudden the Cardinals are up 6-5. Schwarber makes it 6-6, but then Mason Wynn with the homer, Burleson with another hit, and then it was just it was small ball after that. In the 8th inning, Wynn with an RBI
stolen bases
single.
Yeah, it was BS2.
Great. Yeah, it was fantastic. So I love the way they play. I love the resilience they showed. And I will say this about the pitching staff, and I feel like I don't feel like a Sonny Gray hater. I feel like I'm pretty rational about
people
the guy.
think that you're a Sonny Gray hater.
But here's the thing. right now, because I don't think Sonny Gray is a front of the rotation guy for a world championship club. You may think he is. I'd like to see the evidence. But if your biggest concern in your starting rotation is Sonny Gray, then you're pretty good. Michael is pitching pretty well. Palante pitching pretty well. You've got really good
Matthew
work so
Liberatore.
far out of Matthew Liberatore. He's been a stud. And then Fetty, and more shutout action yesterday. Goes 5 2/3 shutout ball. So if that's where you are in the middle of May, you're 6 weeks into the season, and the biggest concern among your starting pitchers is Sonny Gray, you're in pretty good shape.
You're in pretty good shape because we also know that Michael McGreevy is on the way. He is in waiting, and you have that ability because these other guys in the starting rotation that you mentioned are doing well, including Miles Michaelis, which I wasn't expecting that so far. And I know that we're still in a small sample size currently right now, but to your point, you really weren't expecting some of these guys to all be hitting at the same time, and they are. So if Sonny Gray is the only one who's struggling, per se, in the starting rotation, you're in a pretty good standing. Matthew Liberatore has been one of my favorite stories with the starting rotation. He has been fantastic. But then the bullpen is another big part of this, right? Because the bullpen hitting at the same time is really important to this team. After they moved on from Ryan Fernandez, and hopefully he'll be able to figure out in the minors, it seems like things have really shifted back into that way for the Cardinals where they have a better bullpen. I think Steven Matz is a big part of that. Steven Matz is another really underrated story for the Cardinals' success that we've seen so far. He's been a key piece in the bullpen.
And how easy would it be for Steven Matz to be a whiner and a complainer and saying, I'm in a free agent year, I need to start. But he just wants to help the team win. He's a really good piece to have. So here's my question.
12 million, right, for Steven Matz?
I think so, yeah. The deal was 4 for 44, so 11 or 12 this year. Yeah.
Even if he's just in the bullpen the entire season, just say, theoretically, in the bullpen the entire season, 12 million. I know that's a lot of money for a bullpen piece, but does it feel like, would people even look at that as a bad thing if he's performing this well in the bullpen?
He's better than Andrew Miller was at the same price.
Yeah.
So I think I would be happy with that. So the question is, right off the bat here, and feel free to join us in the chat, now, after taking 2 of 3 from Philadelphia, are you excited? Are you excited about the prospects for the Cardinals? By the way, the Cardinals have seen a slight uptick in the number of tickets that they're selling. I would presume because of the success that they've had lately. So here's what we're looking at: 25 to 35,000 for the Tigers series. Tigers are the best team in the American League, best record in the American League. And they're here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the Diamondbacks in town for the Memorial Day weekend. And the Cardinals are expecting 32 to 39,000 for those games. So slowly but surely it's coming back. So I guess it's a two-parter. Are you excited? And are you excited enough to buy tickets and go see this team?
I think there's still some hesitation from fans, and they were waiting to see how this Phillies series went. So you were able to win the series against the Phillies, especially in this fashion where we talked about a statement win in game 2. You didn't just win that game. You absolutely clobbered them in that game. And that's a good team over there in the Phillies. And they've won 10 of their last 11 and 12 of their last 15. I think that people should be bought back in and going back to Busch Stadium. I know that there's some people that, even despite them doing well, are still kind of like, I'm not big on John Mozeliak, and that's holding some people back, or even the DeWitts. I've heard those comments, and we've seen that. We've addressed that on the chat too, where people just feel like the DeWitts are not doing enough payroll-wise, and they're upset about that. But this is a fun team to watch. And so going out and supporting the players is something that I think a lot of fans should be doing.
Yeah, this is antithetical to who I am as a baseball observer, because I'm a big picture guy. I will be much more bought in. And I think this team, well, let me put it this way, it's better than I thought it would be. And obviously, you just look at the numbers. They're playing good ball. Their defense is good. Their base running is good. Their bullpen is good. They're doing a lot of really good things. But I want to see these next 2 series. That's a snapshot in the big picture. But I want to see how they do against a really good Kansas City team and a really good Detroit team.
Those are 2 really good teams over there.
And so you beat Philadelphia, and it's not a fluke. But I just want to see how they do against those teams. And if they go 4-2 in these next 2 series, I will feel pretty darn good. Now, Samuel Howe says, I am excited, but they aren't back till they win a playoff series. And you can very safely make that argument. And I know what you're saying. They aren't back. But I also look at this team because it is a team on an upward trajectory. And what is everybody that's around the team telling us? That their goal was to be better in May than they were in April. Their goal to be better in June than they were in May. Better to be better in July than they were in June. If they do that, I don't want to miss out on that journey. I don't want to miss out on this trip to being good.
Yeah, this young, exciting group, Youngry, as Victor Scott II described them, this Youngry group. But then you have Willson Contreras performing at a high level too. And the way that he's handled everything with grace, when you're talking about being a catcher, the way he came into the organization, to the Cardinals organization, where he was supposed to be the guy, like the heir apparent to Yadier Molina, not Yadier Molina, of course, but he was supposed to be the next catcher. And I know that some people say, well, no, that was never the full plan. That was the plan for him to be the catcher for the organization. And then 30 games into the season of him just being a part of this team, they tried to move him over to a different position. They talked about outfield. They talked about first base. He still worked through all that and handled it with grace. And now he's transitioned over to first base this season. And offensively, he is a force.
Yeah,
he is a force. And then at first base, I mean, he's been doing good too. So you haven't had much of a drop off there. And there's been so much success with Willson Contreras at the plate, what he's been able to do. Herrera is exciting. Victor Scott II, we talked about him the other day, of him being a spark plug for this team. He really is. Mason Wynn. I mean, all these young guys who are performing at a high level. And then you have this rejuvenated version of Nolan Arenado too. And I think that's really fun to see. And the players, you can tell, are also vibing with that as well.
Bach Hog, I'll be 100% in when the new regime takes over, because none of this matters until next year. Matthew.
I think that's a sentiment that there is a chunk of fans will share, but I think it's broken, because while on the surface I get the idea, but first of all, based on everything we've heard from the people on the ground every day, Chaim's impact into the day-to-day stuff is more than it was intimated that it would be at the start of the season. Would you guys agree with that statement?
He's rebuilding their system, so yeah. I would say
he's always been he's always been involved. But you're saying that maybe
I think he's more involved with the day-to-day
than what people thought.
Cardinals decisions than I think was the plan going into this season.
Yeah, I would say the big moves. He's not determining or answering the question, should we bring Matt Swanson up and things like that?
No,
but
and my point is the stuff that happens this year does affect next season because of the young players. And so I get this might be a sentiment that fans feel, but it's just a lot of what matters this year affects next season and matters for next season because of how young this roster is. Ivan Herrera, we're going to talk about him shortly, blowing up is a huge thing. Alec Burleson finding his bat now in May is a huge thing. Jordan Walker becoming a useful player in different facets is a huge thing going forward, not just to 2026, but 2027, 28, 29. Mason Wynn hitting the ball the way he is. Victor Scott. These are all things that matter, not just for 2026, but for a 4 or 5 year window going forward.
And if Chaim Bloom is not an employee of the Cardinals, he's not watching every game. Now he's throughout the system. He knows the players, every player in the system intimately, and he's watching every game. So as opposed to the Cardinals after this season going out and finding a new general manager / Pobo, the guy they have in place knows everything about the organization already. He built the minor league system himself to his specifications with his people. So there's going to be no learning curve for Chaim Bloom when he takes over. And I think, to your point, Matthew, the fact that he gets to observe all these guys and know who he thinks they can win with, and more importantly, who he doesn't think they can win with, he'll be able to walk into his first general managers meetings in November and his first winter meetings next year and know exactly what he wants to do.
It's an evaluation year, but then it's a plus that you have these players performing well.
Yeah.
That's a huge plus. We talked yesterday to John Denton about Brant Brown and the impact he's had, and John Jay, these guys that they brought in the coaching staff. I also want to point out a guy that we haven't really talked about a lot, which is Matt Pierpont. That is a guy who was also brought in during the offseason to the organization. He's a former minor league pitcher and coordinator for the Seattle Mariners. And during his time with the Seattle Mariners, their rotation had the league's best ERA at 3.38 in 2024 and the lowest walk ratio too, and the third best Where is that? Okay. And they also just were able to perform at a really high level while he was working with them. So I think that was another underrated move that you had coming in this organization where he's working with Dusty Blake. We heard the story yesterday from John Ditton of MLB.com too about how Dusty Blake was bullish about Kyle Leahy. And that was a guy who they could have just given up on. He wasn't showing you much, and Dusty Blake saw something in him. And I know you want to call him Dusty Springfield.
Or Blake Lively.
Or Blake
or Robert
Lively.
Blake.
But I mean, that is huge that, he was able to identify that. And I think Matt Pierpont too, him coming in. So there was a lot of underrated moves. I think that at first I was hesitant about why do we just not go ahead and have Chaim Bloom take over for John Mozeliak, because he's done this before, right? He's done this before. Why are we baby stepping him into this? But this actually works out so much better to the point of where he gets to develop things at the minor league level of what he thinks will work, get the coaching staffs in there, get the people in there at different levels to help this group, and then take things over from the organizational standpoint next season. So he's not just thrown into that position.
So overall, I think it's a smart move. I think that once they identified Chaim Bloom as the guy they wanted to utilize as the person to run their baseball ops, getting him in here, letting him observe for a year, giving him this job to basically build the foundation of the organization, and then next year he takes over. That's pretty good. Nick Jensen, I just wish this team had a superstar. I don't know who on this team is a year in and year out all-star. I don't know yet either. Hopefully somebody is. Sir smokes a lot, clearly. Ownership wants fans, the city, and the state to keep investing in cosmetics, stadium upgrades, ballpark village, other BS. This is pro sports, not college. You're not recruiting 17-year-olds in free agency.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay, so do we just start with the first sentence? So ownership wants fans, the city, and state to keep investing in cosmetics. Why would you not want the city to get better is my question. Ballpark Village is a great addition to have around Busch Stadium. I know people get really hung up on, well, shouldn't they just be putting all that money into the payroll? That's not exactly how things work. Why don't you ask the Cubs? Why don't they do the same thing? They don't do that. I mean, there's other teams who are doing the exact same thing. That's just not how it works in a business standpoint. And Ballpark Village has made downtown St. Louis look better.
I would challenge Sir Smokes a Lot or anybody else to tell me who is investing in downtown St. Louis besides the St. Louis Cardinals at this point. What
it's
company?
All sports teams. It's all. I mean, you have Carolyn Kindle, who's done a great job on her side of downtown with City SC and building things up over there. It's all about sports. That's the draw to downtown St. Louis, and is it not? Like
by
when
the
you're
way,
coming in,
the soccer team and the DeWitt family, they built their own stadiums.
Yeah,
I think the ballpark was 95% privately financed. The only thing that wasn't was the infrastructure, sewage and electric and all that kind of stuff around the ballpark. Otherwise, they paid for it themselves. So
Samuel House says, pay for stadium upgrades in this economy. This is something that is very standard. And I understand that money is never a fun topic, right? But when you're talking about stadium upgrades, this is something that's standard for not just in baseball, but a lot of other sports as well. And DeWitt's do front a lot of that, but it's not terrible to ask for the public's help when you're talking about stadium upgrades, right?
No, and every hotel that is built in downtown St. Louis asks for
because they're bringing in revenue,
right? So it's hotels, it's developments. If you like what you see at Union Station, that wasn't all completely privately financed. There was help from government entities that helped with the Union Station, with the upgrades to the convention center. That's all public money that is helping with the convention center. So I think that we need to kind of put things in perspective. Now, there are obviously entities that spend all of their money in building and maintaining their own facilities, but many of those are left. You have an AT&T building downtown that is empty, right?
Yeah.
It was
Didn't it get sold recently?
Yeah, for like $2 million. But
is that crazy that a downtown building like the AT&T building, and that's a big one,
big building,
only $2 million.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So you look at the companies that have left, and I don't blame them, but Channel 4 leaves downtown. Channel 5 is about to leave downtown. Fleischman Hillard is about to leave downtown. AT&T isn't in St. Louis anymore. So many formerly powerful organizations, Boatman's Bank from way back in the day, formerly powerful organizations in downtown St. Louis aren't there anymore. The Cardinals are still there, and they're still investing in downtown St. Louis. So I'm not willing to say that we shouldn't try to help the Cardinals if we have the wherewithal and the desire to help them enhance St. Louis. I would never tell anybody to not buy tickets to go to a Cardinal game, because I do have faith that the Cardinals are trying on many levels to make downtown St. Louis a better place.
Yeah, I think that that's always something positive, is that you need to be able to build up your downtown, because we spoke about this before, but a healthy downtown is not only great for the city, it's great for the counties, the surrounding counties, it's great for the region, because even if you look at the state of Missouri, right? Your big cities, Kansas City and St. Louis, those are generating revenue for the entire state.
Yeah, right.
So that is also important. Your impact in the city also impacts the state's economy too, which is important.
Yeah, right. The question, has Centene pulled out of St. Louis yet? I know they've been wanting to leave. No, but they aren't in downtown St. Louis. Their big investment was in Clayton, but they aren't in downtown St. Louis, I don't believe. Ellipsis 150, the city invested in renovating Union Station and adding the aquarium. They made that a fun place for families. What about the addition of City Foundry? There you go. In those places, and it's, to me, a good thing. If I were a city taxpayer, I would like it if my government was trying to make where I live a better place.
That's important. I think that would be a big positive. Getting back to some of the prospects, and we were talking about having exciting young guys on this team. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys today is about Ivan Herrera. So Ivan Herrera, he missed over a month, as we know, due to a left bone bruise on his knee that he was dealing with. And since his return, he's gone 7 for 18 with 3 extra base hits, 3 RBIs in that doubleheader. He was also the DH in that afternoon game that we talked about, and returning to catching duties that night in the nightcap. He's hitting .385 right now with 5 homers and 14 RBIs. We've talked about finding that homegrown right-handed bat. Is Ivan Herrera that guy for this team, that young superstar that they've been trying to develop? I know that they're wanting Jordan Walker to be that guy, and I'm glad that he was able to break up that skid we talked about in Game 1 yesterday. But can Ivan Herrera be that guy?
Definitely. He's the bat plays, and I think he's better than they even thought he was going to be offensively. They thought he would be a really good hitting catcher, but Brooke, we go back 5 years, spring training of 2020, and the Cardinals thought that what he needed to work on was his offense.
I rember that.
They said his defense is fine. Once the bat gets going, he's really going to be something. And he's been a plus 900 OPS guy at the minor league level. Yeah, I think he's very capable. There's 2 guys that I think that at the beginning of the year, I don't think that I know the Cardinals didn't think Victor Scott, not all of them, was going to be an all-star caliber or quality guy. He looks like he can be one of those guys, and so does Herrera. When I look at the other guys, Newt, maybe. Burleson, not yet. Walker, certainly not yet. Donovan, perhaps. Although Donovan is just kind of one of the steady guys. He's not the guy that I don't think people...
He's Mr. Consistent, which isn't a terrible thing. You need Mr. Consistent on this team.
It's the good teams in the mid-2000s version of Matt Carpenter. But I think until he puts up ridiculous numbers like Carpenter did with the 55 doubles or the 36 homers, he's not a really noticeable guy if you're in another city. But if you see him every day, then you notice that he really is good. And then obviously, not that Contreras is a youngster, but he's a guy that's going to be here for a few more years. And he's a really good player. So, yeah, I think there are multiple guys that we can look at and say, oh, yeah, there are potential all-stars. But the one guy who stands above the rest, to answer your question, right now is Ivan Herrera.
Ivan Herrera is just such a talented guy at the plate. And we've talked about the catching. I saw somebody ask a question earlier if Sonny Gray's struggles was because Ivan Herrera was catching. And I don't think that is the case, because Sonny Gray calls his own game, if I'm not mistaken. And so that wasn't necessarily the issue there. But we have talked about you need to have Ivan Herrera's bat in the lineup just about every single day, right? Like, you don't want to give that guy any days off because of how hot at the plate he is.
Even against right-handers.
So then how do we work him in the future? What do you think that Chaim Bloom is thinking about this as he's evaluating this team and evaluating how Ivan Herrera fits into the picture moving forward, which he has to be, but at what position?
I don't have a problem next year with the Cardinals giving him reps and teaching him how to play the outfield. You don't want to do it during a major league season.
Yeah.
We saw how that worked out with Walker. But during the off season, Maybe send him down to the instructional league, which is after seasons now, or no, before seasons. But maybe you send him down to Jupiter and have him work with your outfield instructors there. I don't know if he can still play in Arizona or not, but give him opportunities to play in games as an outfielder and try to teach him how to play the outfield. The other thing you can do, and I don't think this would be fair, but you could do it if you wanted, is last year you gave Contreras a choice between playing in the outfield and first. He took first.
Yes.
You could always tell Contreras, well, we're choosing the outfield for you now. But I think that I don't know how good Herrera would be at first. Contreras, I know, is good at first. So I would give Herrera a shot in left. And if Walker doesn't work out, then just move Newt to right. That'd be how I get that bat in the lineup.
I hate that last part of what you said, though, if Walker doesn't work out.
Well, it's not looking great right now here in St. Louis.
I know. And same thing for Nolan Gorman. It makes me think about what has happened to these top prospects over the year. I think of even a Dylan Carlson. I'm just talking about the guys that were publicly, there was a lot of pressure put on them. One, because they were a top prospect, but two, the things that were said about them and their potential. Because remember what was said about Dylan Carlson, what they thought about what he would be capable of
also
doing.
Rushed to the major leagues.
Nolan Gorman.
The common denominator is rushed to the major leagues. The one guy that's worked out, despite being rushed, being a high school player that was rushed to the majors and being in the majors when they were 20 or 21, the only one that's worked out is Mason Wynn.
Yeah.
But the other ones are, I think they've been done a great disservice by the organization. Smooth Productions. What's so wrong with Herrera just being the permanent DH? There's nothing wrong with the idea.
You got to get some Burley. You got to get Burley some reps.
Right.
You got to, Gorman. You know, I mean, it's just currently right now, there's a lot of guys who need those who also need those opportunities in the DH position.
And the Cardinals have a lot of DHs. So what I'm thinking is to get the bat in the lineup, have him have a position.
Yeah, you got to figure out something because there is a lot of DHs for this team currently right now.
Right.
Quite a few.
Yeah, so you've got Burleson, you've got Gorman right now. You have Herrera.
And you want Burleson because of what you talked about, his bat finally breaking out in May. You want to make sure that Burleson gets some more opportunities out there.
Yeah, he's got to get opportunities. The one guy who you would have thought would be the natural would have been Baker before he was sent down. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys that could fill that role.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to go back to just kind of a question that we see sometimes with the top prospects. Not every top prospect is going to work out, despite what the organization does. If they give them the proper runway, if they give them the proper opportunities, some guys just don't pan out in that way. It's just that when you have those three specifically that you can think of in recent years, and they're not the only ones. I mean, Zach Thompson is another top prospect that didn't work out. But I feel like Thompson might have been... There were some situations they didn't handle him well in, but then there was some self-inflicted wounds during the offseason.
And at least he was a college pitcher. So bringing him up, giving him less runway, I don't think is irresponsible. I think with the guys that got like 700 at-bats in the minors, and then all of a sudden they're in the majors, I think that's irresponsible on the part of an organization.
Nick Jensen says, what are the Cardinals trying to hand out participation medals? The best players need to play.
Well, ideally, the Cardinals, that was their plan because they planned on trading Arenado. They planned on trading Contreras. And so your best players theoretically would have been Gorman at third base. And you would have been able to play Burleson at first. You would have still had to find a place for Ivan Herrera. But you were planning on giving those at-bats and that runway because the older players weren't here. Being a permanent DH before you hit your first free agency will definitely destroy your value on the market. Yeah, that's true. And I'm sure that Herrera would prefer not to have that. Hey, today is going to be a nice day. I think it's going to rain later. Third alert weather here.
Is it really? I thought it was supposed to be like 89 today.
It's 80. It's more than 80 degrees right now.
Okay. This is why we're third alert, because we kind of like to be surprised as the weather happens. So then, it's, no, I don't see any rain in the forecast,
rain. Okay.
Randy.
Well, first alert weather had rain coming. So, but third alert weather does not.
Oh, God. People get so mad at the weather people when they get things wrong. They get mad.
Does anybody ever send emails to TV stations to people they get mad at?
I think it was in Tennessee, too, that's like a weather reporter got hit by a bow and arrow by somebody mad that they messed up the forecast.
I get it.
Like somebody literally attacked them, like shot him with an arrow.
At least it wasn't a gun.
True. But I mean, like an arrow is still pretty terrifying. It's very primal.
Did the person survive? Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Better forecast next time. That's my recommendation.
I think I would retire after that incident. I would retire after that because it's weather. You can't get it down perfectly to a science.
You know, one of the things that I'm going to do when I retire?
Become a weather person?
No.
Damn it.
I'm going to get to Fenton Barn Grill at least twice a week.
You keep catching me, and like you're doing really good with these transitions lately. You keep catching me off guard with
Check out those wings. This is why you want to get there a couple times a week. The golden sauce, the signature golden sauce right there in the middle. You talk about delicious. Fenton Barn Grill has absolutely delicious food. And those wings that you see right there, right now, Mondays, you can go in between 5 and 9 and give them a test. They're only 10 for $10 Mondays between 5 and 9 at the Fenton Barn Grill. You know, I like their chicken Caesar wrap. It's really good. They have terrific salads. You see the toasted ravs there. They're delicious. They have fantastic happy hour specials. So if you're out and you're going to go play golf, or if you're going to be outside, maybe for a bike ride, and you want to hit a place that is delicious, has $2 domestic beers, head on over to the Fenton Barn Grill. If you want to have a nice business lunch, Fenton Barn Grill. If you have a big party, they've got a fantastic patio area. Just give them a call, and they'll take care of your big party at the Fenton Barn Grill. The 2024 Maitre d' of the Year, Chuck is there. He's also the manager, but he does a fantastic job. The service is spectacular. It is wonderful to go to the Fenton Barn Grill. Those luscious wings are the best you will ever have. You need to head to the Fenton Barn Grill. I try to get there at least once a week when I retire. It'll be twice a week or more. Tell them Randy sent you when you go to the Fenton Barn Grill, only 2 minutes away from the soccer park. It is the Fenton Barn Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton.
Yummy. Did they used to sell? No, that's Cyberg's. I was about to ask if they used to sell shark bites.
Yeah, that's different place.
That's Cyberg's.
Yeah, different place.
I thought that was illegal. I thought it was illegal. I wanted, hey, Samuel Howe. No, that is not nice. Samuel Howe says, Tennessee folk are strange. Hey, I take that personally. Not all of us are strange. I will give you some people, but then isn't that true for everywhere? Is there a state that doesn't have strange people or weird people in any way?
But the favorite is your birthday. Google your birthday, whatever it might be. My birthday is August 19th. So your birthday and then the term Florida man. Just look, it's always great. You want to know what mine is, Brooke? I'll tell you right now.
Okay, yes.
So I haven't looked in a long time. So I'm going to type in Florida man and August 19th.
Okay, Florida.
Okay. August.
They don't have
19th.
Florida woman?
No, Florida men are weird.
Florida woman, yeah.
Okay,
Florida
here's mine.
man.
August 19th, Fox News. August 19th, 2019.
Okay.
Plenty of people complain about a meal going straight to their waistline, but one Florida man allegedly took things a bit too far. Here we go. Hold on. Let me get rid of the ads here. Michael Owens was arrested. Come on now. I'm getting these stupid ads on Fox News. I don't want
one here, Randy, if you want me to go.
Oh, here we go. Michael Owens, 61, was arrested after police say that he tried to shove steaks down his pants at a Publix store in St. Augustine.
Oh my gosh. That is one thing I am jealous that that Florida has is Publix.
Yeah, they're good.
Oh God.
All right,
and apparently free
so
stuff.
good.
What do you got there, Matthew?
July 23rd, just this past year, 2024. If you saw stolen property and knew the owner's phone number, you'd want to alert them of the crime, right? That fact holds true for most of the kind-hearted people in Florida. But surprisingly enough, it holds true also for some thieves in Florida as well. In fact, one Florida man called in to report his own theft to the victim. The Florida man in question, one Marquise Nance, allegedly broke into a woman's car and drove off with it. However, Nance was also able to find her phone number. For reasons inexplicable to any but the Florida man himself, Nance decided to give the victim a call to tell her about the incident. Did Nance's guilty conscience get the better of him? Did he simply want to gloat? No one can say why the Florida man made the call.
Mine is naked Florida man found rifling through stranger's home. Very fitting. Happy birthday to me.
Yeah.
He was just wearing his birthday suit. That's all,
On his birthday?
On his birthday? On my birthday.
Yeah,
He was
on your
celebrating my
birthday,
birthday, even though he doesn't know me.
I've got another good one from Fruitville, Florida.
Okay.
This one is from, let me get the date here, 2022. A Florida man was killed after he allegedly broke into a house and got into bed with the homeowner, all while carrying a machete. The incident happened in Fruitville, Florida on Thursday when police said that the homeowner, who was sleeping in an apartment connected to his home, told 911 that there was a man in the unit. The suspect was reportedly sharpening a machete with a baseball bat. The caller said, quote, "I have an intruder that broke into my home. He's got a damn machete and he's a little whacked," the caller said. When Sarasota County Sheriff's Office deputies arrived at the apartment, they found the suspect inside. The homeowner told the 911 dispatchers that the intruder woke him up and said, "I love you." He said, "I woke up on a mattress and there's a guy lying next to me saying, 'I love you.' I'm weirded out. He's got my machete in his hand." Boy, thank God they got here quick.
I just have one little edit on the piece of writing. You can't sharpen a machete with a bat. That would be blunting a machete.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what he was trying to do.
I'm just saying, like, the way the physics work,
And
you're blunting the machete with a bat.
By the way, the way this worked out on August 19th, 2022, the deputies ultimately shot the suspect, and the deputies
really
said, quote, "Unfortunately, this was a bad ending to a really bad situation.
Aw.
Any day that our deputies have to fire a weapon, it is not a good day, even if the suspect has a machete in somebody's bed."
I had $5. He beat the guy, took the machete, and accidentally killed him with
Oh,
it.
that could
I
be.
had $5. That was going to be how that went.
Okay.
Well,
Brooke, you know what? One thing I hate?
what?
I hate the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are just shoved down St. Louis's throat because they want this market so badly. And so they make it so that all of their games are on TV in St. Louis. It's terrible. I hate it. Yes.
That's
I
what
hate it.
people do.
So, I mean, I get the schedule yesterday. So last night. You know, they've got 8 games, the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs. They have 8 standalone games, 7 in primetime, 1 on Thanksgiving, that apparently are being directed only to St. Louis. 8 of them.
Apparently.
Plus 4 more. They're playing the Broncos, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Eagles. They're all playing them at 3:25 in the afternoon. And it's only apparently going to like 5% of the country because they're trying to shove the Chiefs down our throat.
Apparently, well, yeah, you didn't know that.
12 of their 16 games that
They're
are scheduled
trying
to
to
this
force you to be a Chiefs fan. Whether you want to or not, you have to be a Chiefs fan if you live here in St. Louis. It's Missouri's team, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I'm really mad that I don't know why they do this to us. It would be different if the Chiefs were any good and they got any national TV games. But apparently we're only getting like Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football, Thanksgiving football. We only get those here in St. Louis. The rest of the country is not having the Chiefs shoved down their throat.
So for the Graham Report, we're talking about NFL schedules. They were released yesterday, and Thursday night football actually is becoming the more exciting one out of when we're talking about Monday night football, Thursday night football. And why is it exciting? Because the NFL read the room and they realized that the AFC South is not something that you probably should do a lot of on Thursday night. So there is only a single AFC South game, and that involves the Houston Texans. I don't blame them for, if you're going to pick an AFC South team, that will be the one. That is the only one that they will be having out of the AFC South teams on Thursday night football. So that will be really probably a smart decision, but not to get into my Titans too much. But I just wanted to bring this up. Cam Ward went number 1 overall, quarterback to the Titans. Usually a number 1 overall, that's a quarterback, going to a team is big news. But this year, it was like nothing. It was like he was Mr. Irrelevant as a quarterback. The number 1 overall pick, it seemed like nobody cared about Cam Ward. The Titans will not have a primetime game this season, and that includes the Saints and the Browns as the only other teams who do not have a primetime NFL game. I was trying to think the last time that a number 1 overall pick going to a team, a quarterback especially, was so irrelevant when you're talking about the NFL talking about them.
We had a couple here with Bradford, right?
I was going to say, yeah.
We had some primetime games.
I feel like Bradford of the Rams is probably live as another good example.
I'm pretty sure we have primetime games.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good
in his rookie year.
I felt like people were still talking about Sam Bradford a lot. It's just with Cam Ward, it's like he's Mr. Irrelevant this season.
Yeah.
There's more coverage of Shador and what he's doing with the Browns currently right now.
That's a good point.
Than even what's going on with the guys who went in the first round of the NFL.
Yeah. And I think Tennessee has had a pretty good offseason too. I think that they have a chance to be a 500 or right around 500 because you can't finish 500 anymore. But I think that they have a chance to be pretty good, way better than they were last year. And in that division, anything is possible.
Yeah, it's not a great division. Ellipsis 150 says, I don't know about you, but I wish the league shoved more Titans and Browns down our throats.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Bad team. You really want a bad team to shove down your throat?
Sometimes it can be entertaining.
Oh, gosh. Now we have the Chiefs fans and the anti-Chiefs fans coming out in the chat. Craig Lewis said, I'm a Chiefs fan since the 90s, and I will always enjoy the greatest show on turf. I always felt the way the Rams were paid to come to St. Louis was wrong. That's a controversial one.
Well, they did have, when the Rams came here, their lease was the best lease in all of football. And that's why you guys wound up getting the Titans, why the Browns moved to Baltimore, why the Raiders moved back to Oakland, because everybody wanted the St. Louis lease.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we did give them a lot of money. We were desperate. We had a stadium, and the people that not funded, but backed the funding of the stadium, they didn't want a white elephant sitting there. They didn't want a stadium sitting in St. Louis with no team to play in it.
Mason Windu says Missouri Chiefs.
I think that's good. Yeah. Let them play at the Dome twice a year.
The 2009 Rams.
2010
Rams, excuse me. Played week 17, 7:20 p.m. against the Seattle Seahawks
for the division championship.
For the division championships. That was the only primetime game they had that season. Was the very last game of the year.
So there you go.
Is there a chance that got flexed?
Yeah, it did.
So there is a chance that they were scheduled with no primetime games.
Yeah, they were not scheduled for a prime timer. How about that? So there you go.
There you go.
They didn't
not a great club to be in.
Even then, the NFL hated us.
Yes, but you're right. I think that the Chiefs are being shoved down St. Louis's throat, and how dare they? Well,
just go to Rally House sometime, and I guarantee you that Rally House doesn't sell any of that Chiefs stuff.
I feel like it's now become a little bit more. They have a lot of Chiefs stuff. I feel like it's become a little bit more acceptable for people to be Chiefs fans. I know a lot of my friends here in St. Louis are Chiefs fans. Now they get very defensive about when, I know I was there before the bandwagon, before that started. They get very defensive about it. But there's a lot of Chiefs fans here in St. Louis.
I don't know about you, but I wish the league shoved more Titans and Browns down our throats. Yeah, absolutely. We like that. Thank you, Ellipsis.
If you did have to pick one. So it is interesting how the Titans and the Browns and the Jags are always just bottom feeders. They never get things right. That's more of an organizational issue than anything. Mm-hmm. This season, which one do you think, out of those three that I listed, Titans, Jags, Browns, which one do you think the season has the most potential to actually turn things around?
Jaguars by a mile.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Guts.
Coach, good GM, Vianney guy. James Gladstone.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. But
how will they my only concern about the Jags is they get things wrong a lot of the times, and they aren't great at managing young talent that we have seen in recent years. But you have a bunch of new guys coming in. Would you bring somebody on the staff who maybe has experience or some experience of having a two-way player and how to get the most out of Travis Hunter? Which I know is rare to find, but maybe just something. I don't know. Who would you bring in that could help him specifically?
What you have to do, because he's got to go to meetings and stuff, and I guess they want to use him more at receiver than corner. I think I would rather have him at corner and then have him take shots at receiver. I would rather have him play every snap at corner and then like 15 snaps at receiver.
I'm fairly confident you disagreed with me when I stated that on the radio a year ago.
That he should be a corner?
I thought it made more sense because of the premium to play him at cornerback. And I think the overall conventional wisdom at the time was it's still an offensively, you got to put him at the premium spot of wide receiver. Have you shifted that over the last
I'm just
year?
thinking about the best way for him to be prepared for games.
Oh, okay.
And I think with receiver, you need to spend more times. There's a lot more to learn at receiver. At cornerback, you just do it or you don't.
Yeah.
Right. But you still have to watch tape and know what the tendencies of the receivers that you're covering are. But if you're a receiver, you need to learn routes. You need to develop chemistry with your quarterback. You need to understand the plays, the route tree, and all of that stuff. Things that you don't really need to me, and I might be wrong here, cornerback is a more instinctive position. You can just put a guy out there. If he's a good cornerback and he can play cornerback,
you can open your hips. You can.
How do you manage that with him, though, of his expectations? Because he's been very clear that he wants to play both ways still.
I would let him play both ways.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's not college football anymore.
Right. But I think 15 to 20 snaps at receiver, you can do that.
Yeah, he's really. Did you see the story too, by the way, of Travis Hunter, of where he was sitting next to this older woman on a plane recently, and all these people were being nice to him, and that he was like interacting, and it's just like she talked about how he was. Yeah, she had no idea, and how he was just so nice to her, and I think like getting a jersey to her grandchild or something like that.
He had helped her put her suitcase up in the overhead and everything like that, and. People are walking by and taking pictures and telling him congratulations. And she said, like, "Who's this? Who are you?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I was just drafted by the Jaguars." And then the whole
Which
thing.
is why all that ridiculous reporting around his relationship with his girlfriend was so stupid. And I'm glad we haven't seen a second round of that since post-draft.
Yeah.
So
all that stuff is done.
Back to the schedule for a moment. There are some teams that have really brutal schedules early on, and I think Philadelphia, you're paying the price for being the Super Bowl champions. The Eagles' schedule is not good. Dallas has a hellacious schedule.
I think the Giants are up there too, of one of the toughest schedules.
If you're in the East, obviously, because you're starting with Philly and Washington, right? So there are some teams that are going to have exceptionally difficult, at least as we look at it on May 15th, exceptionally difficult schedules. There will be teams that don't wind up being as good as we think, and there will be teams that wind up being better than we think. Everybody thought in 1999 that they had a walkover with the St. Louis Rams, and they did not. So anything is possible.
The Commanders have another tough schedule too.
So let me get to Dallas for you. Dallas starts off obviously with Kansas City.
That's a cakewalk.
Yeah. And then what do I got here? Dallas starts off with Philadelphia. Sorry, Philadelphia. Philly, then the Giants in the second week. Then they're at Chicago. They get Green Bay. Then they get to go to the Jets. At Carolina, they might be improved, and then Washington at home before you take on Denver and Arizona. So it could be worse for Dallas, but I think with where Dallas is right now with Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach, I think they've got some problems.
King Bash says any schedule is tough for the Cowboys and Giants.
It's true. Giants first pick in the draft next year. Maybe. Yeah. But we have time to show that video too, by the way, so it's always fun every single year to see how different teams approach the schedule release. They've gotten into it with social media, and the Colts put out one and then deleted it because of how they handled the Miami Dolphin. So if you couldn't tell right there, that was Tyreek Hill as a Dolphin that had a Hill jersey on. So it was pretty clear to see. And the Coast Guard came up and arrested him. If I'm not mistaken, didn't another team also do a Minecraft version where they also had something? He was late to a team meeting. They had him late to a team meeting.
Chargers had a Minecraft video, and like usual, the Chargers dunked all over people. I couldn't get the picture to show through StreamYard, but they had things like Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence getting in a shouting match inside of an AT&T Stadium where blinding light was shining through the windows. They had, in the background of one of the team videos, they had, this is insane, they had the Ian Rappaport and a fight with the other reporter in the background. George Schultz. The Chargers just they found a way to dunk on everyone. They had Anthony Richardson have to take a pit stop in the middle of his race to get out. They pretty much took jokes at everyone throughout the entire thing. It was well put together. The Chargers always kill it. You mentioned the young GM from the Jaguars. They also took a young perspective for their schedule release, and their schedule release was different Sabrina Carpenter outfits and performances as teams. And let's just say this, hardcore football fans didn't respond well to that shop, surprisingly enough.
Oh my God. Of course. Of course not.
By the way, this is soft and hilarious by the Colts. Like, I think this is funny that they did this.
They should have just kept it up.
I think it's ridiculous that they had to delete it.
Or what would it even been funnier if he also had like a bunch of little mini dolphins around him, like little baby dolphins.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That'd be so
funny.
funny.
Does he have
like 11?
No, he's not at 11, is he?
Oh, maybe not.
Actually do this
because
it's still in single digits.
It might be around, well, because he kind of fired off a lot at once. Remember, because while he was getting married or about to get married, I think he had like 4 baby mamas at once, like 4 babies being born at once. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot in 1 year. Like he's trying to outdo Elon Musk and Nick Cannon. But yeah, I guess impressive is a good word.
Yeah,
it's something.
Prolific.
It's something. That's a good description of it.
Yeah.
Hey Randy, I got a tweet with the Cowboys, one from the Chargers video. And there's Micah Parsons, there's Dexter Lawrence in his New Jersey having their argument that they had on Twitter, and the blinding lights of AT&T Stadium showing through.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The Chargers absolutely.
I'm sure Jira will enjoy that.
Hey, and you know what's cool is that once the NFL season does start in September, you'll be able to go to DraftKings Pick 6 and pick some overs and unders, because it's so much fun and it makes games so much more fun to watch. All you need to do right now is download that DraftKings Pick 6 app and use that promo code STL Sports. And if you make a $5 wager, you'll get $50 back in Pick 6 credits, and it's great. Pick 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. You can do it for baseball tonight. You can do it for basketball. You can do it for hockey. And you can pick up to 6 and set yourself up a really cool higher or lower parlay, and you can get cash. It really is fun. It really is exciting, and it will change the way you watch sports. DraftKings, use that promo code STL Sports. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
By the way, before we wrap things up, because this is a question we had at the beginning of the show, has the Cardinals winning streak changed your ticket buying priorities? And that's the poll that we still have up currently right now. 72 votes, so still get yours in.
Now.
It's tied 50-50 of people saying yes or no. So even despite winning this series against the Phillies, and we talked about that statement win in Game 2 where they just absolutely clobbered the Phillies, it seems like people are not fully bought in coming back to Busch Stadium.
I can understand that. Maybe it takes a little bit more. And I think the Cardinals understand that it's going to be a process rather than an event. It was a process to see the number of fans that attend Cardinal games dissipate over the years. And I have to believe that they get that it's going to be a process similar, but in reverse, to try to get fans back.
It seems like Mo fatigue is something that we've talked about that you see over and over again, where people just want to wait till he is done, which he's not leaving the organization in any way. He'll just be doing something different with the Cardinals organization unless he decides to go elsewhere on his own. But he is just going to be doing a different job within the organization. It seems like maybe some people are waiting for that era to end and then they'll come back and still see how things go with Chaim Bloom. But does it feel like some of the ire has now turned to the DeWitts? It went from Mo fatigue and it developed into DeWitt fatigue.
Yeah, and I think that people are nuts to think that they aren't going to get a Bob Castellini or a Bob Nutting or one of those Polad family in Minnesota.
Or a John Fisher.
Yeah.
Like, you have to worry about that.
Yeah, right. I think you really, when you want new ownership here, you really have to be careful of what you wish for, because as we mentioned earlier in the show, they're committed to St. Louis. They're big Cardinal fans. They've done great things. When you consider where the organization was when they arrived and what it did over the succeeding 20 years, 25 years, I think sometimes you really need to be careful and think about what you want, because Steve Cohen isn't coming here. You aren't going to get a guy with $18 billion that's willing to spend his personal fortune to pay baseball players. That's the only place that's happening. Even the Yankees aren't paying out of their personal fortune. The Dodgers aren't paying out of their personal fortune. So you aren't going to get that guy. So the strong likelihood is that you wind up more with a franchise like the Pirates or the Reds or Cleveland or Minnesota or Miami, one of those, the Rockies. The strong likelihood when you look at the franchises and the way they're running baseball. Strong likelihood is that you're going to wind up with one that's a lot worse than what you already have.
And you've already warned people about this before. And this is not something that is a rumor. This is something that has been stated before. There's a guy out there that we really don't like here in St. Louis that really does like the St. Louis Cardinals.
He does. Yeah. And
his name's Stan.
Stan. And
Stan
it's not
Kroenke.
Stan Musial.
Nope. I wish. Even though that would be weird. He'd have to come back from the dead.
Yeah.
But Stan Kroenke.
That's a good way to make a lot of money, though.
And Stan Kroenke, I don't even think, I know some people say, well, why would he do that? Why would he be involved with anything in St. Louis anymore? I don't think that he strikes me as the guy who really cares.
No, he's kind of delusional.
Yeah. He's not able to read the room fully.
No. So I could absolutely see him making a bid. Now, I also think, knowing the DeWitts, they wouldn't do that to Cardinal fans.
No, I really don't think so either. I don't think that you would want another person to come in. The DeWitts care about the organization. I understand the frustration over the years of what happened with payroll. They were spending money, and they did admit that they got away from their bread and butter, which is developing young players. And now they're trying to fix that wrong.
Yep.
You do have to give people, at least they're trying to fix the wrong.
Right.
It would be worse if they realized that it wasn't working and they still just tried to do the same thing. Or if they just said, well, we also aren't going to spend money on development anymore, and we're not going to spend money in free agency.
And the ground has shifted under their feet very, very quickly. You went from having $100 million to $300 million players to $700 million in the space of less than a decade. And the Cardinals used to be able to get people to stay here for less. Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland, Mark McGwire, Darryl Kyle, both Molina and Wainwright signed here for less than market value. And that doesn't happen anymore.
No. I mean, just look at everything that's happening with the Dodgers right now, which, by the way, Sasaki injured.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
He has a shoulder impingement, which he also dealt with last year in Japan. It'll be an interesting.
And then Snell has been injured. Glass now has been injured. So even if you go out and spend a bunch of money, which I know they're fine, they can still go. They develop their pitchers and they can go spend some more money. So they're not worried. Nobody's feeling sorry for the Dodgers in any way.
No.
But look at, even if you spend a bunch of money, how it could pan out in that way.
Right. It could wind up. If you can't afford to make the mistake, it could wind up being really bad for you.
Yeah.
Brooke, have you ever heard of Ryan Fox?
Ryan Fox? Yeah.
Ryan Fox.
Yeah.
Who is he?
So, why does that sound familiar?
I don't know. He's the
Why?
guy that's leading the PGA Championship at the moment.
Oh my gosh!
He's 500 through 17 holes as we speak.
Is there another
There
guy
might be
who's
another
like
Ryan
a kicker,
Fox.
or who's the guy that's from St. Louis that's Fox?
Jack Fox.
That's who I was thinking.
Oh,
that was my
okay.
first initial thought bubble that popped up in my head.
Okay, best putter in the league. Went to Ladue.
He did, yes.
But Ryan Fox, who is leading the PGA Championship in Charlotte.
Wow, that's exciting.
Well,
Do you just want it to be a big name all the time? Is it better for the sport, or is it fun to have some unknowns?
I want
come
the
out?
names. In fact, this morning, the only thing, and I only saw a little bit, unfortunately it was on ESPN Plus, but you had the group of Scheffler, McIlroy, and the other Schauffele. Those three were together. I didn't care about anybody else.
You don't care about it. Is there any young golfer that excites
I'd like
you?
to see Morikawa, and
Morikawa is a good one.
Jordan Spieth. I would still like to see succeed. I'm a fan of Justin Thomas. There's a lot of guys, but I want to see I think the point here, I want to see the brand names, and Spieth and Thomas are still brand names.
And that's the thing that sells. Unless they're in live, then nothing can sell.
Right.
Live.
Oh,
at that point.
Believe me. Let's scroll way down and see if we can find Brooks Koepka. Loser.
Come on, he won here in St. Louis.
Yeah,
That
but
was
nobody wanted
exciting.
him to. It was exciting, but nobody
Did
wanted him.
you ever
to
hear
win.
that rumor? And maybe I shouldn't even say this story. Nah, too late.
Koepka 5 over. Go ahead.
Did you ever hear that rumor that he had padding in his shirt to make him look more muscly?
I never heard that.
I don't know. I because there's something about he was supposed to give his shirt of when he won here in St. Louis, but he didn't want to do that because there was something in there padding
shoulder
wise.
padding?
But I mean,
That's
he's
pretty
already
wild.
kind of a muscly guy anyways.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I don't know. I just threw a random story out there. I heard it through the grapevine.
No, I like those kind of random
Just
stories.
Allegedly, I got to throw that word in there so I don't get fined.
Yeah, I'm here so I don't get fined. Brooke, by the way, June 1st. I don't know if you'll be available or not.
Probably not.
Okay. Sports Hub STL is going to join Hot Shots for their 35th anniversary party at the Hot Shots in St. Charles. Again, it's June 1st. First of all, all Sports Hub STL postgame shows are brought to you in part by Hot Shots. And on June 1st, the St. Charles location, the 35th anniversary, there's going to be all kinds of fun. Look at that parking lot party with the Clydesdales. Get your pictures taken with them. You also will have an opportunity to win prizes. There's going to be a darts tournament. There's going to be a cornhole tournament. And there's going to be a taco eating contest. You can win tacos for a year from Hot Shots. You can also say hi to Rizzuto and Rafe from the Rizzuto Show on 105.7 The Point. Meet Louie and Bushwhacker. Prizes all days. Sample teams. You're going to have cool celeb bartenders from St. Louis City SC. It's all going to be June 1st at the Hot Shots in St. Charles. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots, St. Louis home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. How about that? Are we wrapping up here?
We are. We're saying bye-bye.
I have a couple
Yes.
things from last night.
CDSC.
Oh, yes.
2-2 draw.
Things not going great. Two things we need to touch on because we already talked about Kansas City dunking all over St. Louis. And, they got to do it a little bit last night. First of all, the Sporting Kansas City has a former St. Louisan on their roster. And to last night, he made his return to City Park. He had about 200 friends and family.
Oh,
so obviously, you think St. Louis kid, first time he's ever playing in front of his home fan base. You think people were loving him, right? Well, this hit social media before the game.
That I'm in it, it's like a lot more than not just liking. It's like over everything, the barbecue, which city's better, and I fully think Kansas City's better in every single way. But
wow.
So that hit social media that a former St. Louis kid now playing in Kansas City had taken a side that we were not too happy with.
Where did he
here
go
in
to
St.
high
Louis, I
school,
don't think.
Rock?
I can double check that. I don't want to say the wrong one.
I feel like that's has to be asked.
He was born in Baldwin, and he went to. Oh, geez. What high school did he go to? How is that not on his Wikipedia? Jeez, come on.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I feel like if you're a St. Louis and it's a requirement.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter yesterday.
But he doesn't like St.
He went
Louis
to Parkway
anymore.
West. Okay, so he was born in Baldwin, grew up in Baldwin. He went to Parkway West, and now he thinks that Kansas City is better in every conceivable way.
Wow.
Not great for St. Louis. And then also during the game, St. Louis City gave up a goal to a star for Sporting Kansas City by the name of Dejan Joveljic. He said after the game, "Can we play them every week? That would maybe be good for me and good for the team."
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Ouch. Yeah.
CDSC feels like they're struggle busting.
Not great.
It feels like they're struggle busting. Also, Berkey looked so defeated in the post game last night. Is that the energy and vibe? Defeated in the way of just like frustration, I think is the best way that I just evaluated that.
Yeah,
I
he
agree.
was pretty pissed off. And I think for him, part of it is that when he got injured, they hadn't allowed a goal. And he comes back and the defensive structure isn't what it was those first four games. And he kind of pointed out in the press conference, he was asked about that. And we need to find balance. When we push forward and try to attack, we can't just fall apart defensively. And unfortunately, the goals in this game were they were huge just mistakes mentally. And for me, I draw a very large line between mistakes a player makes because they simply don't have the athletic ability to play at this level or play with the elite players of a level, and just mental mistakes. And these were mental mistakes. Akil Watts on the first goal, just ball watching, gets pulled inside, doesn't watch for an overlapping player. And it's an easy 1-2 that you practice thousands of times that they just completely crap the bed and allowed him to score on. And then this second one is a set piece goal, and Joveljic just goes up and completely skies Simon Bescher. And some people want to blame Akil Watts for that one. I'm not sure. He looks like he's trying to mark a different player, but he didn't even do a really good job of doing that. But I mean, Bescher didn't even get his feet off the ground to contest this header from Joveljic. And, it was a weird night overall. They're up 2-0, and in the 59th minute, they put in 2 offensive subs. Then they go down 2-1, and they start preparing defensive subs. But then by the time they get the defensive subs on in the 70th minute, it's 2-2. So I thought it was odd they went to that decision. Olaf didn't think that decision had anything to do to play into the finality of the game, which I thought was odd.
How did he know?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question because get this. First of all, Olaf did the post-game press conference,
Okay,
but was not on the sideline for the game.
correct.
Which seems kind of odd to me because questions like why did this decision get made at this minute point seems like it's going to be pretty stupid to ask Olaf because he wasn't on the sideline. I asked it anyway because we asked because I was informed Olaf's doing the presser. My question then was, okay, then what was he not allowed to do for the suspension?
You're right, yeah.
He was not allowed to communicate in person with the team 90 minutes before the game or be in the stadium 90 minutes before the game. And he was not allowed to communicate with anybody on the coaching staff in person during halftime.
In person.
In person was directly stipulated to me. I then said, so he could have just been DMing them on the iPads the whole time. And I was told that's not against the rules. So him doing the press conference, I guess, still made sense because he did have his fingerprints on the game. Anyhow, that was a weird moment because I thought it was pretty obvious that was a pretty big factor in the game.
Yeah.
Olaf very much disagreed, said it wasn't a factor, and they completely screw up a 2-0 lead, and now
2-2 draw.
it's a 2-2 draw.
We're scuffling.
It's 9 straight
On
the
games
pitch.
without a win.
Yeah, the
It's
NCAA
terrible.
tournament started. Basketball tournament started before the St. Louis City SC had their last win. So, Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Glad to hear. Matthew, it sounds like you're despondent.
I am a little despondent.
Hey, by the way, if that
City's
guy,
bad.
and I don't know this, if while they were here, if that guy who scored for KC went up in the arch, would that have been a deja vu?
By the way, Jansen Miller spent the entire night getting booed every
He
time touched
deserves
the
it.
ball.
Good.
Lucky he only got booed by the murder capital of the world. Well, I'm just saying.
We're number one. We're
We're
number
number
one.
one.
We're number one.
We're number one. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.